What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Goblin, and today we're coming in with a banger of a video. A true hoot and a holler. Hope you guys enjoy this one. Drop a like if you do. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And speaking of subs, thank you all so much for 600,000 subscribers. It's an incredible milestone that I honestly never imagined being at. So I just want to say I love you all and thank you all for supporting me. Also, the new Slim Goblin Grinders drop tomorrow. That's right, October 22nd at 4:20 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you bookmark the link in the comments or description below. It'll be in both. And also, these grinders are less than half of the price of the originals, yet they have all the same features. You're still getting a watertight, airtight seal. You're still getting a lifetime warranty. They're still made in the US, and you're still getting the same beautiful, sexy grinder. Make sure you bookmark the link. These are very limited quantity. Last time, they disappeared pretty much immediately, and we're expecting the same to happen again. So make sure you bookmark the link, sign up on the wait list that's on the webpage, and make sure you get an email when they drop, and stay ready. Without further ado, let's dive into the video. So, today we're talking about my Coke plug. In particular, a certain incident that I had with my Coke plug that I never really wanted to share with you guys. However, now that he's in jail for a very long time for a despicable crime, I don't feel nearly as bad talking about him. So, I'm not going to get too much into why he's in jail because I know I'm going to get a million comments about it. Honestly, the reason I can't talk about it is because his case is so specific that if I went into enough detail, anyone could figure out who he is. Essentially, it was a very disturbing domestic violence incident. We're going to leave it at that. I'm not going to say any further. But he's not going to be out of jail until I'm like 35 minimum. That's if he's lucky. So I don't think we really have to worry about him watching this video. So the particular incident we're talking about today happened back in 2019. In particular, it happened in September. I remember this so vividly because this was right before I got kicked out of my mom's house and my whole life changed. On this fateful day, I hit up my Coke plug like a normal day, and I hit him up and I said, "Hey, let me grab a little bit of blow. You know, I just want like an 8-ball or something." He responded to me pretty quickly and he was like, "Oh, for sure. You know, I was actually meaning to hit you up. I wanted to talk to you about some shit." Now, what he wanted to talk to me about was YouTube videos. He already knew that I was a YouTuber. We had discussed what I did for a living because I was buying so much Coke that this guy asked me, he was like, "What the fuck do you do for a living?" And I was like, "Oh, I make YouTube videos." So I had showed him my channel maybe a month or two prior to this, and he found it pretty interesting. And at the time when we had this conversation, his girlfriend was also in the car with him. And it turned out that his girlfriend actually had a little makeup channel. She was also trying to make YouTube videos. So we were conversating about it a little bit, and she was asking me for some advice. So at that time, I had added her on Snapchat, and then a couple weeks later, she'd messaged me and I gave her some tips. I mean, I had even done this shit in person for him before, you know? I came in, I linked up, and I offered them some more advice, but I had never been to the Coke plug's house. This was my first time going to his house, so this was a completely different experience. You see, he hit me up, he hit me back, and he said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about that YouTube stuff." And I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" He's like, "I don't know if you remember when I mentioned, but I had offered to give you some blow if you would come through and, show me how to do some of this stuff." And I was down, obviously free Coke for sure, but also, at this point, my Coke plug and we'd gotten along pretty well. One of the crazy things to me about the crime that he committed and went to jail for is that I would have never expected it out of him. He was always super cordial. He was super polite with me. He had 2 children, and from what I could see, he really actually did care about them, They would always be posted up on his story, be playing with them and stuff. You could tell that, he was genuinely a proud father, he seemed like a decent guy. What ended up happening with his arrest is all I'm going to say is it was drug-induced. He was a Coke plug, but he didn't do his own supply. He didn't do blow. He wasn't into that stuff. He just smoked weed. Part of the reason behind it, I believe, is because he was on parole, which I don't even know how he got away with smoking weed because this was 2019 and that shit wasn't legal yet. Maybe he had a med card. I don't know. I didn't ask many questions. But either way, he's telling me on this day, he's like, "Yeah, we're planning on starting like a couples channel, And I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, that is the funniest shit I've ever heard from my Coke plug. This guy's starting one of those like lovey-dovey couples YouTube channels. I honestly couldn't believe it at first, but then I thought about it and I was like, no, I could. This guy's got a soft side. I could see it for sure. So I hit him back and I'm like, "Yeah, for sure. What do you need?" And he's like, "Well, bro, I don't even know where to start. Like, normally my girl does all this stuff. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing." So I hit him back and I'm like, "Yo, Don't worry about it. I can show you how to do everything. I can show you how to edit. I can show you how to record. I got you, bro. Just come through. He's like, well, why don't you come over to my place? You could show me how to do it on my computer and everything. Help me download some stuff. I'm like, bet. Say less. We're going to the plug's crib. We're getting some free blow. I'm fucking down for it. So I go hop in the shower, get ready for my day, because obviously that was not the first thing I did when I woke up. The first thing I did when I woke up was hit Coke Man, of course. I mean, I was a raging addict at this point, so that was my main priority. So I get up with a little extra pep in my step, and I get ready for the day, and once I'm ready, I hit Coke Man back, and I'm like, yo, let me know where you're at. I can come through whenever. So he Snapchats me back with an address, and it's about 25 or 30 minutes away from me. I knew the general kind of area and direction he lived in, but like I said before, I didn't really know exactly where he lived until this day. So he sends me the address, I hop in the whip, and I drive on over to Coke Man's house. And I drive over in my beautiful 1994 Cadillac DeVille. I loved this car to death. I am so sad that I don't have it anymore. Genuinely one of the most fun vehicles I've ever owned. It cost me like $2,500, $3,000 total beater, and I loved it. It had lighters built into every door in the car. I mean, it was a dream. It was a total Coke-mobile, and I got pulled over a lot, but it was kind of worth it. Either way, though, I hop in the caddy and I start rolling over to the address he sent me. Maybe 25 or 30 minutes later, I pull up and I park, and he's in this kind of a apartment building. It's not like a huge apartment building with a giant parking lot, but you could tell that there's definitely a multi-unit kind of situation, so I didn't know where to go. So I just parked up and I Snapchatted him, and I'm like, yo, I'm outside, and he's like, bet, I'll come get you. So he comes out, I dap him up, I'm like, what's good, my man, and we head inside. Now, we get in there and we're chatting it up a little bit, and he's got a blunt immediately. I mean, within 5 minutes of walking in, this guy sparks up and passes it to me. I'm like, yo, that's lit. And I ask him, I'm like, yo, are your kids here? Like, should we go outside? He's like, oh, no, don't worry about it. They're with their mom, like, it's all good. So I'm like, bet. Say less. Let's get fucking lit. Where's the blow? Where's the blunts? More blunts. Let's fucking get it cracking. Obviously, that's not actually what I said, but in my head, I was like, yo, this is about to be a blast. So we're smoking this blunt, chatting a little bit, and I ask him, I'm like, so, what do you know so far? Like, do you know anything, or do you want me to show you how to do, like, every step of making a video? And he's like, well, she already has this camera and everything, so I kind of have the equipment, but I don't really know what the fuck I'm doing. So he sits me down at the computer after we finish this blunt, and we're sitting next to each other, and he logs onto the computer and he shows me what is already installed. His girlfriend already makes makeup videos, but I don't know what the fuck she was editing these videos with, because there was no editing software on this computer. I'm like 99% sure she was just editing that shit in like Movie Maker. I have no idea, but I'm looking around, I'm like, okay, at first I got a little too technical. I'm like, all right, you know what After Effects is? You know what Sony Vegas is? He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? So I'm like, all right, let's start from square one. So first, I download the audio program for him. I tell him, I'm like, listen, Audacity is good. You can monitor your audio while you're recording a video. It's easy to use, right? Next up, I get to the editing software. I showed this boy how to pirate. I downloaded uTorrent for him. I was like, yo, listen, you don't got to pay for this shit, bro. Just download the crack version. So I give him a good old pirated version of Sony Vegas, Now this man's ready to rumble. He's got his editing software. He's got his audio software. So he starts asking me, he's like, okay, well, how do I edit a video? Like, how do I change it? So I bust open Sony Vegas, the editing software, and I start showing him this shit. And I mentioned to him as I'm busting it open, I'm like, oh, yo, can I grab that Coke, by the way? I'm kind of fiending right now. And he's like, yeah, bro, I got you. Hold on. So he gets up and he disappears for maybe like 30 seconds. I'm sitting at his computer, still booting up Sony Vegas, trying to figure out where to even start with showing him this program. He comes back into the room and he's got this Ziploc baggie. He didn't bust out like a full brick. I don't really know if this guy ever even had a full brick. I mean, he definitely had close to it from his Snapchat private stories, but I'll never really know. But he pulls out this plastic bag, and he comes and he puts it on the desk when he sits down next to me, and it just has this corner piece, this giant corner of a brick, like just absolutely insane. It's got the fish scale texture on it. I'm looking at it, and I'm like, there's no fucking way this man just busted this out and put it on the table. This was by far the most cocaine I had ever seen in person. I have no idea how much was in this bag. I don't even know if he fucking knew how much was in the bag, but it was fat. I mean, if I had to guesstimate, couple ounces at least, dude, probably more. I mean, this was a fat Ziploc. It was like one of the gallon bags, bro. This was a fat Ziploc that was pretty loaded up, and it was just big chunks. I mean, there was no powder to be seen. It was basically just a corner piece of this brick, and then some other little pieces that kind of broken off of it. I gotta stop describing the brick, because honestly, I'm starting to salivate right now. So he puts it on the desk, and I just lose focus entirely. I am no longer thinking about editing the video. I look at that, and I'm like, yo, bro, like, I just want, like, an 8-ball or something. He's like, yeah, bro, just grab a piece. Don't worry about it, you know? I thought he was fucking around at first. I was like, oh, you know, like how much? You know, like, I mean, what, like, you know, what's the cost here? Like, what do you mean grab a piece? And he's like, yeah, bro, just take it, you know, grab a piece off. It's cool. You know, I'll tell you if it's too much. And I'm sitting there in disbelief. I mean, this is a coke addict's dream. Imagine being invited to the plug's house and he just brings out a Ziploc full of coke and just goes, grab a piece. Like, oh my God. It genuinely felt like I was 6 years old at like Build-A-Bear Workshop again. I couldn't fucking believe it. So I opened the bag, and I'm trying to be very, very delicate here. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to grab too much. I don't want to seem greedy. So I grabbed the fucking tiniest piece ever. I grabbed like maybe a half-gram little chunk. I mean, very tiny chunk. So small that if he wasn't looking, I don't even think he would have noticed this chunk missing from the bag. But I took this tiny-ass little chunk. It didn't really say anything, so I figured that was good. I was like, yo, good looks, like, appreciate it. I was like, thank you, bro. He's like, yeah, don't worry about it. And I told him after that, I was like, but I still want to buy that 8-ball at the end. He's like, yeah, we'll figure that out later. You know, don't worry about it. So I grabbed my little chunk off, and now I've got it on the desk, and I'm like, yo, I need a fucking line, bro. Like, I got to chop this up. He's like, yeah, don't worry about it. So I put it on the back of my phone, do the classic dollar bill over it, scrape the debit card over it. But before you scrape the debit card over it, of course, you got to crush it a little bit. I didn't have anything good to crush it, so I just kind of did it with my hand. Then I scraped it down with the debit card, and I was good to go. Listen, I got the strategy on point. Now, after I get a couple lines down the hatch, or should I say up the partially collapsed nostril, I'm feeling fantastic. I'm ready to rumble. So I'm right back in the zone. I'm showing him how to edit. What I ended up doing is I just downloaded a random video off YouTube and then put it into the program to show him just how to, you know, generally edit a video. So I'm showing him, I'm like, okay, here's how you break it into multiple parts. You know, here's how you get it into the program. And he's sitting there and he's looking so intent. It's hilarious. I mean, my coke plug, he looked like such a coke plug. I mean, face tats, neck tats, like every part of him that was visible was covered in tattoos. Yet in reality, he was just this dude trying to learn how to edit videos for his baby mama's couples channel. It was absolutely hilarious looking back at it. But either way, I mean, he is intently listening. He is absorbing everything I'm saying. So I'm like, yeah, you know, here's how you split it. And I showed him how to do some stuff, and he's like, oh, okay, you know, like, can I try it? And then you just tell me what to do. And I'm like, yeah. So we switch spots. He hops in the main chair and he's starting to mess around with it. And he's like, okay, so how would I do this? He's like, oh, you know, I want to slow-mo it. I'm showing him how to do everything. I'm like, here's how to do anything. And I told him, and I'm like, yo, listen, if there's anything we don't cover today, you can just give me a call and I'll show you how to do it. You know, you can hop on FaceTime or like, you know, some sort of video call or whatever and figure it out. So we sat there probably for maybe 2 hours, I would say, just showing him how to do the different parts of making a YouTube video, you know, from editing it to then, okay, once you're done editing, you got to save the file and render it. Then, you know, all the other tips. I showed him how to upload, and he knew how to upload, but obviously there's more to it. You got to know how to title a video well. And then we got to the thumbnail part. I told him, like, yo, do you know how to edit pictures at all? And he's like, no, I got no clue. So I pirated Photoshop for him too. I'm like, yo, I got you, don't worry. Realistically, it was very worth it for him to give me the free coke, because the cost of Photoshop and Sony Vegas would have definitely been more than the cocaine he was willing to give me. So I guess it kind of worked out for both of us. But either way, I pirated Photoshop for him, and now I'm showing him how to make thumbnails. But I'm not very good at Photoshop, you know, but I knew more than he did, so I was still able to help him a little bit. Now, obviously, every 30 minutes or so, I'm re-upping on the lines. I mean, I'm going skiing. We're hitting the slopes. And by the time that we had finished our little editing session, I had finished my little rock that I'd pulled from the bag. So I said to him, as we were coming to a close on this little teaching lesson I was giving, I said, hey, You know, can I grab that 8-ball now? And he's like, yeah, I got you. Hold on a second. So he takes the bag and he disappears again. And he comes back maybe 5 minutes later with this little beautiful plastic baggie with the 8-ball in it. And I tell him, I'm like, yeah, you know how much I owe you for this? And he's like, oh, you know, don't worry about it. Like, I really appreciate the help, bro. Like, just keep it. I could not fucking believe it. I was in disbelief. I nearly wanted to hug the man. I was like, are you sure, bro? Like, are you positive? And he was like, yeah, don't worry about it. Now, me being the coke addict I was, instead of just buying, or instead of just leaving with this 8-ball, you know, and chalking it up as a free re-up for the day, I still had my initial 8-ball money that I planned on spending. So I said, yo, let's make it a quarter, bro. Let me buy an 8-ball. Like, I appreciate the free one, but let me buy another one then. I still got the money. And he's like, okay, you know, he kind of laughs a little bit. He's like, yeah, okay, I got you. Don't worry about it. So he goes back, you know, wherever the fuck he ran off to. I don't know. I didn't really feel too keen on following him through his house. And he comes back with another 8-ball bag. And he's like, I got you, bro. Don't worry about it. And he gave me the sexiest chunks out of this bag. I mean, so solid. Everything was just a big rock. It was perfect. You could tell he put some thought and love into packing these 8-balls for me. So I was like, yo, you are the man. I appreciate you. I said to him, I was like, listen, bro, if you ever need any help with this stuff, just give me a call. You know, like, I'll show you how to do whatever. I'll help you out. And he was like, bet, you know, I really appreciate that. So I was lit. I intended to come over and spend my money on a fucking 8-ball, and instead, I got 2 for the price of 1. It felt like I went to Macy's, honestly, because everything they have is always on sale because it's usually shit. Except this time, it wasn't shit, and I wasn't at Macy's, so it was fantastic. So I dapped him up, you know, I said my goodbyes, and I told him once again, I was like, hey, just give me a call. He was like, for sure, man, I really appreciate it. So I headed out of his crib with my nice little quarter bag on me, or quarter bags, I should say, hopped in the whip and cruised back home. Now, this was probably the most, I guess, personal interaction I ever had with him, but even prior to this and after this as well, I mean, we got along well. He seemed like a really good guy, which it makes it so much more crazier that he went to jail for what he did, you know? I mean, he did some terrible shit. It was domestic violence, right? But it was drug-induced. And, you know, obviously in this video, I wanted to tell a good story, but also another reason that I talk about this is because drugs really change people. You know, I mean, this guy was genuinely one of the kindest people that I'd met, at least to me. I mean, he seemed to be a very good, caring father. He clearly took care of his kids. The crib was covered in toys. And I mean, he seemed like such a good guy. And then he had that one night where he took some shit. I believe it was Xanax, but I've just gotten that through the rumor mill. I don't know how accurate that is. And I don't think I'll ever know because I don't plan on going to ask him. But either way, he took something that fucked his head up and made him just snap. And that's kind of one of the things that I want to point out and highlight in this video, is that even if you've never done a substance before, you haven't done it in a while, sometimes if you're not in a very great mental state, that substance can be what pushes you over the edge and makes you do something that you really don't want to fucking do. So obviously the point of this video was A, to tell a banger story, make a hoot and a holler, which I think we did, but also I want you guys to just kind of keep that in mind if you're considering maybe relapsing on something or considering trying getting fucked up on something new. Make sure you're in a proper mental state for it, because my coke plug sadly wasn't, and now his whole family had to suffer. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, though. Drop a like if you did. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And also, be ready for the Grinder drop, October 22nd, 4:20 p.m. Pacific. Links in the description. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out, gamers.